Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are doing something pretty incredible. We're going to decode a completely invisible matrix hidden right inside English grammar. If you're a native or fluent speaker, you are literally using this secret set of rules every single day, probably thousands of times, and you don't even realize you're doing it. You essentially have a supercomputer running in your brain right now, enforcing these strict language laws that, well, you were probably never even taught in school. So we're going to pull back the curtain on this hidden code, and I can guarantee you, once you see it, you're absolutely never going to look a sentence the same way again. All right, just listen to this sentence for a second. I bought a beautiful, large, old, round, brown, French wooden dining table. Now, obviously, that is a ridiculously long string of adjectives. Nobody actually talks like that in casual conversation. But run it back in your head. It flows perfectly, doesn't it? It sounds entirely natural to the human ear despite being so absurdly long. There's this undeniable rhythm to it that just makes innate sense to us. Okay, let's dive into this, because here is exactly where the mystery kicks in. What happens if we mess with it? Imagine just swapping the very first adjective, beautiful, with the very last one, wooden. If we read it like, I bought a wooden, large, old, round, brown French beautiful dining table. You kind of instantly recoil, right? It sounds completely and utterly wrong. It literally feels like a glitch in the matrix. But think about it. Grammatically, they're all just adjectives modifying the word table. So why on earth is changing the position of just one single word suddenly ruin the whole sentence? Well, the answer lies in something called cumulative adjectives. Now prepare to have your mind blown a bit here. When you have multiple adjectives modifying the same noun, and they come from completely different categories, like age or color or material, they don't just hang out next to each other randomly. No, they build upon each other in this rigidly locked, completely invisible order. It's a strict sequence, kind of like entering a combination into a vault. And because they're locked into this super specific sequence, you absolutely do not use commas between them. So what exactly is this secret vault combination? Behold, DOSASCOMP. This is the exact 9-step hidden formula that every single native speaker subconsciously follows. Let's step through the whole shebang. We always start with a determiner, like a or for, then opinion, beautiful or ugly. Next come the physical traits, size, age, shape, and color. And finally, we hit the identifiers, origin, material, and purpose, like a sleeping bag or running shoes. DOSASCOMP. Beautiful is an opinion, right? So it has to go near the front. Wooden is a material, so it strictly belongs at the very end. And that is exactly why our swapped sentence earlier sounded completely insane. Your brain was basically screaming that a material adjective was violating the law of DOSASCOMP by sitting in the opinion slot. So the crucial point is, this exact order actually dictates our punctuation too. Take a look at this phrase. She wore a bright red sweater. Notice how there is absolutely no comma between bright and red. Why is that? Well, because bright is an opinion and red is a color. Opinion comes before color in our DOSASCOMP hierarchy. They fall perfectly in line with that invisible sequence, building on top of each other. And because they're following the rules of cumulative adjectives, commas are completely off the table. But of course, language is messy, so there's a twist. Welcome to the comma dilemma. We just saw how cumulative adjectives build on each other in that strict DOSASCOMP order with no commas. But what happens if two adjectives come from the exact same category? Well, that brings us to coordinate adjectives. When adjectives share the same category, they aren't building on each other in a neat sequence anymore. Instead, they're actively fighting for equal dominance over the noun. And when they fight for equal dominance like that, you must step in as the referee and separate them with a comma. Consider this example. It was a long, exhausting, difficult journey. Long, exhausting, difficult. What do these three words actually have in common? Well, they're all opinions. They all belong to the exact same category on our DOSASCOMP chart. Because none of them outranks the others or has a designated order to fall into, they carry the exact same weight. So because of that equal weight, the commas right here are absolutely strictly mandatory. Now, you might be wondering, okay, how do I know for sure if these words are fighting for dominance or if they're just following a sequence? I want you to try this interactive test right now in your own head. It's called the reversal test. Basically, ask yourself two simple questions. First, can you put the word and between the adjectives? Second, can you completely reverse their order without it sounding totally weird? Just think about that for a second, using our journey example. Let's apply the test and prove that it works. Try scrambling those words. An exhausting, long, difficult journey.
It sounds totally fine, right? Now try throwing an and in there, a long and exhausting and difficult journey. It still makes perfect sense. Because it passes this test flawlessly, we know for a solid fact that these words are coordinate adjectives. They're equals, and therefore, commas are definitively the right way to go. Actually, if you tried this with the bright red sweater from earlier, like saying a red bright sweater or a bright and red sweater, it sounds terribly clunky. That is literally your built-in radar telling you that those are cumulative, not coordinate.
All right, now that you mastered the invisible sequence and the comma combat, it is time to meet the rule breakers. Because just when you think you've cracked the entire code, you run into what we call position-restricted adjectives. In English, most adjectives are pretty chill. They're happy to go either right before a noun or way after it at the end of a sentence. But these rebels, they absolutely refuse to follow standard placement rules. They stubbornly lock themselves into one specific spot in a sentence, and they are not moving for anybody. Let's move to and see how this builds into an ultimate linguistic showdown. On one side, we have attributive-only adjectives. These are the words that demand to be front and center. They absolutely must go right before the noun they're describing. We're talking about words like main, chief, or utter. Then, on the flip side, we have predicative-only adjectives. These are kind of the introverts of the grammar world. They flat out refuse to stand in front of a noun. They only work if they can hide safely after a linking verb. Words like alive, asleep, and alone. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what I mean. Let's put it to the test. For attributive, we say the main reason. It sounds powerful, perfectly correct. But if we try to force it to the end of the sentence and say, the reason is main, well, your brain basically short circuits. It's just totally wrong. Now look at the predicative side. We say the baby is asleep, a perfectly lovely, normal sentence. But try moving asleep in front of the noun, the asleep baby. Again, your ingrained linguistic radar goes completely haywire. It honestly just feels wrong on a biological level. Honestly, think about how amazing that is. You literally have this highly tuned internal alarm system for grammar that you never even installed yourself. Which brings me to a final, kind of haunting question to leave you with today. If you perfectly knew the 9-step DOSASCOMP sequence, and if you knew exactly how to navigate that coordinate, comma, combat, and if you instantly recognize the absurdity of the asleep baby without a teacher ever sitting you down to explain these specific rules, what other secret rules of language are you blindly following right now? This hidden code is everywhere, and you are completely fluent in it, even when it's invisible. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this totally changed how you see the words you use every single day.